Ralph Waldo Emerson said, "Once you make a decision, the universe conspires to make it happen." In 1841, 4 farmers decided that their homesteads in Warren County, Missouri, needed a plan to grow and become a full community in which their children could grow, learn, and build purposeful futures. The universe conspired, and the Pleasant Hill Schoolhouse was built and impacted lives for generations to come. Thomas K. Archer, Thomas Collins Jr., Presley T. Oakes, and John C. Howell had contiguous farms. Together, they made the decision that at the cross-section where all 4 properties met, each of them would donate 1 acre of land to provide an area to build a community structure that everyone could use.
This school was originally 4 families donated a piece of ground, and it was donated as a public meeting place. As long as there was public meetings here, it could be kept. That's why it's here today.
Now this building that we're sitting, now the land was donated in 1841, so this is the 175th anniversary of the establishment of the school.
I often wondered what went on here when the Civil War was, if the school was started in 41. So it was here when the Civil War. It had been here quite a while.
A schoolhouse that could be used for primary education for children would be built, and would also be used for church services as well as social gatherings. The district was founded in 1841 with a log schoolhouse. There were no desks for students, and only log benches were used, and 1 writing desk was available for students to use with permission. In 1862, the log building was replaced with the schoolhouse that still stands today. Pleasant Hill still serves as a gathering place for the community club, which has been meeting since 1941. Pleasant Hill has been maintained and repaired through the years and reflects its original state and structure, including the outbuildings of a coal house and 2 outhouses.
Presley T. Oakes donated 1 acre of land. Thomas Collins Jr. donated 9 square rods of land, a rod being 5.5 yards or 16.5 feet. John C. Howell donated 6 square rods of land. He also is the grandson of Francis Howell, which the school district in St. Charles is named after. Thomas D. Archer donated 1 acre of land. The main crop growing in this area in 1840 on the 1850 agricultural census is tobacco. Presley T. Oakes, I also should mention, his wife is Elizabeth Archer, the sister of Thomas D. Archer. But the main crop was tobacco. In the 1850 agricultural census, he has 1,300 pounds of tobacco. He owns 200 acres of land. 100 of it is approved, 100 is unimproved. Thomas Collins, he died in late March or early April of 1845. And he died intestate, meaning he did not have a will. And the administrator of his estate was Judge Creed Archer, who is also the brother of Thomas Archer. John C. Howell, he had 1,800 pounds of tobacco. He had 120 acres. 80 of it was unimproved. And Thomas Archer had 5,000 pounds of tobacco, 400 acres, 300 unimproved, and 100 improved. Thomas Archer died in 1860. In 1864, his wife died, Nancy K. Hall Archer. John C. Howell's mother-in-law was also a K. Hall. I said Cahill, it's K. Hall. Was also a K. Hall. I think these people are all one big family. Then they moved here from North Carolina and Virginia to this area in Warren County.
The old log cabin, and I think there was a well over here, And I think that's why we believe that this here is probably on the foundation of the old log cabin. We can't prove that. And we did. We spent maybe 4 hours out here that day with about 10 to 15 people trying to find the old foundation to see if we could, establish the actual location of the original school.
Pleasant Hill, I think, is probably one of, I don't know about the rest of the schools that were in the county, but is probably the last building, or one of the last buildings. Today, we are celebrating the 125th anniversary of this building that we're actually in today. This building was built in 1891.
And there was one earlier than that.
Yeah, it was a log
It was
cabin.
it was a log one. That was the first one built in 1841. This is my belief. We came here last fall. We walked all over looking for the foundation of the old school. It was a log school. We didn't find anything. And if you really look at this land, the lay of the land, it's on a hill. This is the only level spot that they could have built anything on. And I really kind of think that this building today was built upon the old foundation. Also, the name Pleasant Hill School. There is an article that the Historical Society has. It's a newspaper article. It says that the school was named after Robert Pleasance. Robert Pleasance was the wife of husband of Pearlina Archer Pleasance. There must have been some epidemic or something that went around here in that point in time, 1855, because Pearlina Archer Pleasance died the 6th of October, 1855. Robert and Pearlina had a daughter born the 12th of September, 1855, and she died the 3rd of October, 1855. And I would say that this school then was given the name Pleasant Hill because of the two Pearlina Pleasants that died in their memory and being on the hill.
And they're buried over there.
They're buried in the cemetery here. There's an Archer Cemetery just right adjacent to the school building here.
This here is William Klessemeyer. Born
I don't start yet.
July 27,
Guys, we gotta wait for her.
1826. Died March 18th, 1858, I think.
So that's quite an achievement, I think. 175 years. And we have some music that we wanted to play first.
I got one sister, and this is me, because I always had a sailor cap.
It's got a lot of memories. We had a lot of good times here. And we just knew everybody in the neighborhood, and they knew us. Back then, you could walk across somebody's property. They didn't say, "Get off my land." "Hi, how you doing?"
I had gone to school in St. Louis County, and until the World War II came, and my father had no job after that because he was a carpenter. And so I stayed in St. Louis with my mother, who worked for Curtis Wright, and I talked my sister and brother into the wonders of going to a one-room schoolhouse. And that sort of prepared me a little bit. I knew what I had to do. On the first day of school, I was more nervous than I think the children were, but they were scared too to see a new teacher, I suppose.
Your aunt, she taught here, didn't she?
Ruth Dohage?
Yeah.
She did for 1 or 2 years, I think. You must have had her then as a teacher,
Yeah,
didn't you?
She was, and she stayed up the road from the county farm there.
I see. Well, that was the common practice, though, wasn't it, for the teachers to stay with a family close to the school? So she must have had to walk, too, I guess, didn't she?
Oh, I'm sure she did. I don't remember.
Well, it was the beginning of the school year.
A beginning?
at the beginning of
Were
the
you
school
about
year,
fi-
yes.
Were you about 5 years old then? Was that the beginning of first grade?
That's when I started the first grade, 5 years old. Well, my brother was 2 years older, and they didn't want him walking through the woods by himself, so they held him back a year, and they pushed me ahead one year, and that's the reason I started when I was 5, and he started when he was 7. We were in the same grade, and we carried our lunch in a tin bucket. I remember that. I don't know where the tin bucket came from the store somewhere.
I think one of the big distinctions was that there were most times 8 students, and we were in all different grades.
And I started here when I was 5 because I was tired of being at home. You learned a lot by sitting in this room full of people.
I think part of it, though, is the sense of community. Being a one-room schoolhouse, you got to hear everything else that was going on for the other grades, too.
And my brother would get so mad that I would take the same test he did and make a better grade than he did. But he was, it wasn't very nice, that's for sure, when you think back.
And you were supposed to get the younger ones busy with their work, and you could teach let's say, the 5th grade, 6th grade was the most important one. And so you could get their lessons started, and then you'd go back, and sometimes if the older ones completed their work, they could help younger ones. That was nice.
Now, our dad went to this school too.
1908 or 1909. I think it was later than that.
He always told the story, the big tree that's gone now was just on the other side of this little shed. And there's a big old limb on it, and he always tells the story, there was a boy in here the teacher could not do anything with. And that boy would sit up there on that limb. And he might come in middle of school, and the teacher would ask him a question, and he knew the answer. So I guess he was just bored. So he'd stay up there in that tree.
And then lunch, I remember they each had to have their own cup, and there was a table back there by that door, and a water bucket or something, whereby we got that water that was brought in. They would each get it, they could drink water with their meal or whatever they brought from home. And we had kerosene lamps, and that also was my job, to keep those kerosene lamp chimneys clean.
We had a cistern for water, and they'd collect the rainwater off the roof and run it into the cistern, and that's what we had to drink.
Right, and then somebody pumped the water out of the cistern.
It had a pump on, right, it had a
And
pump.
brought it into the school?
No, it's into your glass or cup, whatever you had.
And you went out to the cistern to get a drink?
Right.
Oh, okay, all right. And then when did the school get electricity? Or
Well, when
was it available?
rural electrification came in, and that was, years and years later.
After World War II?
After World War II, right?
My brother and I was talking last night, and there was nothing good about the good old days. It was hard, very hard. No electric, and no running water, and walking through the snow to school. I remember Martha and I were walking up here, and she wanted to stop, and Mom and Dad said, no, never stop. You keep walking. No matter how cold it is, you keep walking. And we did not have snow days. If it snowed, my dad hooked a log to a horse and drug us a path.
We've made progress. I would hate to see little children walk so many miles. That's the thing that really impresses me, how far little children walked to come to this school. You wouldn't believe the miles little children walked to get here 5 days a week.
Well, there was about 1 mile, I guess, when I was in the first 3 grades. And It didn't take too long to get there, probably a half hour.
And you walked through the woods?
We walked through the woods, barefooted usually, in the spring and the summer, or in the spring and the fall. And then when it got cold, we wore shoes, of course. No school bus, never heard of a school bus. We didn't stay home on account of cold or rain or snow, no.
Okay.
Well, we like to go barefoot, and my folks say didn't mind because they didn't have to buy shoes then.
Today, that would be considered child abuse.
It would be.
They wouldn't permit that.
We walked a little over 2 miles. So my dad we had a gentle horse he had bought, and he took a saddle and he took the stirrups off so we couldn't hang a foot in it or anything. And he walked in front of us, and we made it till right up through the ditch here and halfway to the road. And that horse, a rabbit jumped out, and the horse jumped sideways, and I fell off, and I guess you fell off too.
I guess I did. I don't remember that.
Anyway,
I didn't get cut up like you did.
I fell into the fence, barbed wire fence. So that ended the horse riding. So then from then on, we walked like we had done before.
Well, I shouldn't say this, but my good friend Gilbert Volk, we was playing ball and he tore the seat out of his pants, and he forgot to put shorts on that morning. So that was funny.
Of her and some other boy.
Uh-huh.
And Dale, he was a minister, and her and the other boy was getting married.
That was a game that you were playing during recess?
Yeah, I guess it was around recess or something going on that day.
But one morning, I do remember this. Everybody settled in so quickly, and everybody was quiet, except the boys were snickering and snorting around, and I knew something was up, but I didn't know what. Sooner or later, one girl had to go to the bathroom, and so the boys, yeah, what's gonna happen now? So I knew something was, and pretty soon we heard the scream. She burst out of the bathroom. The boys had placed the possum in there. And so I went in, picked up the possum and threw it in the woods, and came back and talked to them about it and asked that they please not do that again. And that was, I think, the worst thing that ever happened.
My favorite teacher was Marion Gotterman. And she's the one that encouraged me to get into contests, and I got through my curriculum okay, so she said, well, what do you want to study now? And I said, well, something about music. So then she let me study about composers, Mozart and Bach and Beethoven and them. So yeah, she was a wonderful lady, the way she took me in. Well, Daddy said those kids need music out here. So he came in one day with a big old upright on a truck. I don't know where Dad found that piano at, but we had music then.
We had sanding blocks with sandpaper on blocks for rhythm, and had tonettes, which are little horns that you played. And so we had music lessons as well as everything else. And when you hear about them cutting out music in some of the big schools and things, it was a simple education, but I think it was a very good background.
Also, we had the board with the nails through soda caps.
Oh, I don't remember that.
That you hit on your hand like that.
Had a music teacher came out here on Thursday, and me and my brother, we sat kind of in the back, and neither one of us could sing. We toned it, and we just sat there, and the rest of the class, she had them singing, the music teacher. Finally, she said, if you boys ain't gonna sing, you may as well go outside. So we got up and went outside, and she never called us back.
Definitely had recess, but that came probably about 10 in the morning because we began school at 9. I do remember one family had a television. Now you gotta remember, in the 40s, there weren't a lot of television. But the only thing on was wrestling. And so the boys would go to this one family's house, the Buxton family, I think, and they would watch wrestling. And so that was the boys' pastime, and the girls, of course, would watch them. And so sometimes I'd break up the wrestling. Other than that, it was way more fun for me to play softball with them.
Recess, noontime, we played what they called town ball at that time, and something like softball, but not like softball either, but that's the game that we played mostly. Well, we play hide and seek and wolf in a pen and things like that you don't hear of anymore.
Okay.
Oh, we played almost everything. We played pick-up sticks. That was between the well and the pick-up sticks, and we played handy over. The big kids would get to play over the schoolhouse, and the little kids over the woodshed.
But we never even heard of football in them days. But we did play softball. He'd throw the ball over the schoolhouse, and the other one throw it back, you know. You just kind of made your own fun, really. And that's the only choice you had, actually.
Christmas, we got a big Christmas tree that would go to the ceiling. We would go to the woods and find a Christmas tree. We would make Christmas decorations and did a lot of colorful chains and things like that to hang up.
It's really something. I remember Christmas programs. Santa would come walking out of the woods, and we would all be so excited. And he wore an old moth-eaten suit, which was kind of old. But anyway, that was a big treat at Christmas time to have Santa come for our little Christmas program.
But they talk about the time that they rolled a snowball in front of the outhouse when the teacher was in it and she couldn't get out. And things like that happened. There was mischievous ones just like there is today.
Wintertime, we used to play the fox and the goose. And you made a big ring in the snow, and then you had 4 kind of like bases on a ball field. And then you had to chase this goose, and if it got to a base, well, he was safe. The old fox had to go someplace else.
One of the highlights was when the school superintendent came to visit. And I remember one time he brought bottles of Coke. He gave each one of us a bottle of Coke. And oh, that was such a thrill and big treat for us. Give a bottle of Coke given to us by Eli Midler.
That's why I like Coke so well, I think, this today.
I think the young people today need to know that it wasn't all work. You know, a lot of enjoyment in life. And I think they miss a lot of the good things that we had that you'll never have. You know, the closeness to each other and close to the land, stuff like that.
Every month we had a program, and we had to learn with stage curtains up here. We put stage curtains across here and a dressing room on each side. And then we had programs.
God bless that community. They came with guitars. I didn't need to do anything. This community provided the entertainment.
The kids always put on a Christmas program, and at the end of the school year, they always had a basket dinner. All the parents brought baskets of food, and they had a dinner. It was a meeting place for the neighbors.
Oh, I remember that stage when you got to get up on that stage and perform. You were like in New York City.
And one time some girls come out from Wharton that tap danced, and I always wanted to tap dance, and you know me, I was so big and clumsy. But anyhow, after they were here, all I did was tap danced. And the teacher said, well, you're going to tap dance at the next program. Oh no, I was afraid to get up there, you know.
And then at the end of school, we would have a weenie roast down by the creek. And that was always a big fun affair. Oh wow, we loved that. So I have many happy memories of this place.
People donated their time and donated their talents and really helped keep it going.
It was a center of the community, and school was very important to us. The parents took turns being on the board. They would help the teachers and I guess they would hire the teacher. And she would usually live with one of the families near here.
What were some of the duties the teacher had to do?
Well, just teaching 8th grade, I don't know how in the world they did it really, because it couldn't be easy preparing lessons for 8 grades.
No, it
But
wasn't.
I remember when listening to the 8th grade, if you had a lesson coming up that wasn't too interesting, why you'd listen to the 8th grade. Actually, this one-room schoolhouse wasn't that bad. You listened to all the other grades above you. And if you was in the 1st grade, you could listen to people in the 8th grade.
Mm-hmm.
When they,
So you got a well-rounded education.
right. I remember one thing Aunt Linda taught me in the 1st grade. She said Missouri had 8 bordering states, and I never forgot that. There's 8 states that border Missouri. It's Arkansas, Oklahoma, Kansas, Nebraska, Iowa, Illinois, Kentucky, and Tennessee.
You have a great memory.
3 months was one school term. There also was a subscription school here. And so parents could pay a certain amount of money, and then their child could go to school for another term. So as I read that article, I took it that the first term, the first 3 months, then was free of charge. And that then if you wanted your child to continue on that year, you could then pay money for them to stay another term, so that the school year then would have consisted of 6 months.
What kind of education did the teachers have?
Well,
They
Aunt
taught
Linda
all
was
8th
my
grade.
first teacher, and she had an 8th grade education, but she's a very smart lady, and you never know that she had an 8th grade education. My Aunt Linda, she was a wonderful woman.
Aunt Melinda was your mother's sister.
Right. They were
Correct.
born on the same day, but 12 years apart.
And she lived with you then too?
She roomed with my parents, right, over 3 years that she was taught school there.
So that was before she was married?
Yes, before she was married. And I remember her helping us with my Carl's homework and my homework at night. So it worked out good for us.
So you got some extra tutoring then?
Yes.
Okay. Why did everybody love her so much?
She's just a good woman.
She was pretty special.
Yes, she was.
And then who came after her?
Ruth
She
was the
your
next.
teacher for 3 years, and then who came after her?
I think it was Gussie Smith.
Well, I remember sitting in a little desk here. We started up at the front. The younger grades started up at the front, and then we moved progressively back as we matured. And Richard and I we were in the same class, so we shared a seat here in the back at our last year.
The yellow bench has been here as long as I could remember. It was set right there because that's where we come when she would call, like the 8th grade for their lessons. We would come sit up here. And there was hardly ever over 2 kids in one class, you know. George Washington's picture hung right up there.
The stove I remember well. As I went on to teach after I got a degree and went on to teach for another district, I had to teach history of education in Missouri. and I felt well equipped because I could tell them that I was a janitor. I had to build the fire each morning, and I had to, the boys helped me carry in the wood.
And my father built that wood bookcase, and he built the woodshed with 2 neighbors.
In the hot summertime, we'd go out under the tree and have our class. There wasn't but about 8 of us in the schoolroom.
Do you have any idea what the salary was for the teacher?
I think it's about $75 a month.
I had trouble spelling it. A lot of it. I still do. I stood in the corner a lot.
Which corner?
That one over there.
At the end of the day, you swept the floor. You were the janitor, of course, and you had to make sure that the water was running in cold days. I had to, because I lived on a farm, I had to go out and prime the pump to get the water to come up. So I knew that there had to be some running water in order to do that.
Well, there was a free high school when I graduated, but I didn't go to school for 2 years because my parents didn't want to send me to school, and so I stayed out of school 2 years, and then they finally consented for me to go to high school.
Okay. And then after high school, you joined the Army Air Corps. You enlisted in the Army Air Corps?
Army Air Corps, yes.
Army Air Corps.
Uh-huh.
And where were you stationed then?
I was stationed all during the war in the Aleutian Islands.
Oh, okay.
The Japanese took over those islands at the start of the war, and we finally got them out of there.
Well, there aren't many one-room schoolhouses left, and I think only someone with a single-digit IQ would want to see this place be swallowed up with weeds and brush, trees, and it seemed to me it was too valuable to see go away, and I spent the 8 years of my life in this school.
Plus our family has a long history here.
Yes, you're right. Many relatives attended this school. It would be a pity to see it disappear.
But your 8 years at Pleasant Hill really served you well then.
Yes.
You were able to compete with everybody else and held all of your own responsibilities.
That's right.
Okay. Then you became a successful businessman and the father of 3 wonderful children. So
3
your
children.
life beginning at Pleasant Hill turned out to be pretty good, didn't it?
Yes.
I think that this could be a great place to come for a field trip.
Oh, I think that it's held together this long is a miracle. It really is. Because what happened to all the other schools?
Well, I would like to see this Pleasant Hill School kept up, good maintenance like Vicki and Philip have done, and Carolyn.
It's kind of nice, and it's kind of sad because once we're gone, there's not many of these left. And I believe that this was the first public school in Warren County. I believe that.
Mm-hmm. I think we'd like to see it as a museum too. We would like to see more of the original furniture, the desk replaced, and be able to have maybe some of the new young students in school today come and visit and just see what it was like to go to school at Pleasant Hill in a one-room schoolhouse.
And I really think that that's what these 4 men wanted to do. They really knew the value of education before they ever arrived here. I think they were highly educated men, and I think that they wanted to share what education they had with anybody and everybody that they could share it with and they were willing to, because that's a lot of land they gave up.
That they seen the need for the education, that if the community was going to grow, the people had to be educated, otherwise the community would not prosper. And I think that's what they wanted, was a prosperous community for the area.